Bessent gibt zu, Dollarblockade-Strategie löst Inflation im Iran aus und entfacht Straßenproteste.
Walked away from it. So speaking of something else we walked away from in the Biden administration was actually being tough on Iran when it came to sanctions. I appreciate the maximum pressure strategy that President Trump has gone back to. I'd like to ask you, what more can we be doing as we see us place pressure on the Ayatollah, who is no friend of the United States of America, and as we see what he is doing to the citizens of his own country in the streets? What more can we be doing to make sure that we are placing the pressure that we need to on the greatest state sponsor of terrorism, and that is the Ayatollah and Iran?
Well, what we can do at Treasury, and what we have done is created a dollar shortage in the country. At a speech at the Economic Club of New York in March, I outlined the strategy. It came to a swift and I would say grand culmination in December when one of the largest banks in Iran went under. There was a run on the bank. The central bank had to print money. The Iranian currency went into free fall. Inflation exploded, and hence we have seen the Iranian people out on the street. We will continue monitoring all the partners, all the Iranian partners. The good news, Senator, is that we have seen, and we can see it with our fencing, we have seen the Iranian leadership wiring money out of the country like crazy. So the rats are leaving the ship, and that is a good sign that they know the end may be near.
I want to switch quickly to regulatory tailoring. It is obviously my belief that proper tailoring actually ensures that supervision is grounded in economic reality rather than subject ideology. Can you speak a little bit to the work that you and IFSOC agencies are doing to more properly calibrate our regulatory framework, whether it's capital rules or stress testing or even adjusting to outdated thresholds?
Again, we are looking at all the thresholds. One thing that happened, too big to fail became too small to succeed, as Senator Hagerty said, and we don't want to see more of our small banks go under. What we want to see before the great financial crisis and this excessive regulation on the system was we would see about 50 new banks formed every year, by definitionally small banks, and we need to get back to doing that. We need to get back to small banks. I was talking to a community banker, 17 employees, 3 compliance people. And
last, I've got 30 seconds, but there have been claims made by the other side of the aisle, even tweets put out. I can provide that for you if you need that. But some pretty serious accusations, and saying, we have a tweet actually from the ranking member that says, and I want you to be able to correct the record if this is true, but essentially claims that the IRS has gutted enforcement and dismantled the DOJ or forced tax fraud investigators to actually stop doing their job. Does that have any legitimacy at all? Because I think that gives us all concern if that's the truth.
Complete sophistry. We've identified $10 billion in tax crimes, up 15% from 2024, $4.5 billion tax fraud, up 110% from last year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Warnock.
Thank you, Chair Scott, and welcome, Secretary Bessent. President Trump promised that his administration would usher in a, quote, golden age of American manufacturing. In September 2024, at a rally in my home state of Georgia, Donald Trump said, quote, "We're going to have a manufacturing boom." Secretary Bessent, we're now more than 1 year into the Trump administration. Yes or no? Has there been a manufacturing boom in the United States?
There are the beginnings of a manufacturing boom. We have intentions, factory groundbreakings, sir.
So your answer to that is yes, there's been a manufacturing boom?
That we are at the beginning of a manufacturing boom.
Okay, you and I could agree to disagree, but more importantly, manufacturers are telling us something different. Manufacturers are struggling because of the president's policies, and that's what they keep telling us, and the facts keep telling us. In fact, just this past Monday, the Wall Street Journal published this article entitled, "U.S. Manufacturing is in Retreat, and Trump's Tariffs Aren't Helping." I request consent to enter this article into the hearing record. Mr. Chairman?
Without objection.
Secretary Bessent, do you know how many manufacturing jobs the United States has lost since Liberation Day in April 2025, when the president first announced his tariffs?
Yes, Senator, because you were out of the room, but it was already brought up.
We do many things, sir. I don't need you to tell me where I was.
72,000, and I will point out that the Wall Street Journal
72,000
is not called the Main Street Journal, and they care more about Wall Street than Main Street.
Sir, I'm not asking you to opine on the Wall Street Journal. I have 3 minutes. Just answer the questions that I'm actually asking you. So 72,000 manufacturing jobs, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Thank you for answering the question. Manufacturers shed workers in each of the 8 months after President Trump unveiled his tariffs on what he called Liberation Day. I would submit that it's a strange liberation and a curious freedom that leaves you unemployed. Even worse, smaller businesses are struggling to keep up with the tariff chaos. Big manufacturers may have the resources to shift suppliers. And I need you to understand the spirit of my questions. I spend a lot of time talking to the people in Georgia who've given me the great honor of representing them in the United States Senate. And so this is about them. And especially our small businesses. They don't have the ear of the president. They don't have access to Mar-a-Lago. And so they're not able to insulate their company from the worst of the tariff. Secretary Bessent, small businesses without the same resources or unfettered access to the president, what should those businesses do for the relief if they can't get into Mar-a-Lago?
Again, sir, small business confidence is up. And we are seeing that the one big beautiful bill gives the full expensing for equipment, factories, and ag structures.
They are telling us that it's more expensive to make basic things. We are moving in the wrong direction. The facts don't lie. The president lies often, but the facts don't lie. In fact, if you're saying we're at the beginning, basically your answer to those small businesses is wait a little while. Is that the answer? That a year from
you ask about manufacturing.
That's right.
So
I'm asking you,
and I am saying
I'm asking you about this manufacturing boom. Will we see something different a year from now?
We are going to see it. I was just in my home state, Senator Scott's state, South Carolina, that we are seeing a boom there. And I believe Georgia has very good pro-business policies. I'm sure you will see a boom there also. The factory build intentions are quite high.
I'll tell you what I see. I see, as I talk to folks, that it's more expensive to build things in America. I see that we've lost 72,000 jobs a year into this administration. We've lost manufacturing jobs every month since he called for Liberation Day. And meanwhile, folks who are working in these small businesses trying to make their lives work, they're seeing higher costs. They're seeing their costs go up for groceries. They're seeing their costs go up for electricity. They're seeing their costs go up for health care. And I think the American people are still waiting for a solution. So far, we haven't seen one coming out of this Trump tariffs regime. The Baptist preacher is done, and I have no time left. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.
Inflation.
Senator Ricketts.
Thank you very much, Chairman Scott and Ranking Member Warren, for this hearing, and Secretary Bessent, thanks very much for being here. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you, Senator.
Good seeing you. And I want to thank you and commend you for updating the 45Z clean fuel production credit. That is very important, so thank you very much for getting that out. Your guidance incorporates what we put in the Working Families Tax Cut. Remember, that's how we rebranded the One Big Beautiful Bill, and supports Nebraska farmers and biofuel producers. So that's really, really important. It also ensures that feedstocks from faraway countries will not be allowed to get that credit, which means American taxpayer dollars will stay here in America. That was very important. So Secretary Bessent, appreciate that. Also want to just comment on one of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle talking about the ag economy. I would note that under the Biden administration, we had 4 years in a row of agricultural trade deficits because the Biden administration was the first administration, going back to Jimmy Carter, not to sign a major trade deal. And that is one of the reasons why we have such a hard time right now in the ag. And in fact, when talking about input prices, under the Biden administration, June of 2022, Diesel hit 575. Now it's at 352. So again, we need to address the issues to help our farm economy out. But a lot of the seeds of this was started in the Biden administration. I also want to thank you for presenting FSOC's 2025 annual report. In that, one of the things that perhaps you already touched upon, and if I'm repeating myself, please forgive me, or repeating what's happening here, forgive me, but the Biden administration, under the Biden administration, then Secretary Yellen, actually undid all the good work of the Trump administration in 2019's FSOC when they changed the activity-based designation guidance. Yellen replaced it with her own guidance that was turning a last resort safeguard into a tool that could be weaponized and stifle innovation and restrict access to capital that would grow our economy. A little over 2 years ago, I sent a letter to then Secretary Yellen about how the 2023 entity-based designation guidance was misguided, lacked evidentiary support, and increased the likelihood of market distortions. Secretary Bessent, do you agree with the characterizations of the 2023 guidance that could do all these things, could cause market distortions?
I believe in the activity-based guidance, and we are moving back to that, Senator.
Great.
And Senator, if I could just point out that FSOC under Secretary Yellen, 2 weeks before the three of the largest bank failures in U.S. history, many of them due to bond market portfolios, identified climate as the biggest risk to financial stability. They had not over-leveraged bond portfolios.
Seems like misplaced priorities given a financial service sector. Secretary Yellen rolled out her new guidance, and then she stripped out the cost-benefit analysis of it. In your view, does cost-benefit analysis matter in evaluating to use FSOC's SIFI designation authority?
Again, sir, without that, why would you do it?
What is your view on the activity-based designation approach that was developed through the transparent and methodical process done in 2019?
We are readopting it, and we believe it is fulsome, robust, and smart-minded.
Great. Thank you very much, Secretary. Thanks to President Trump's leadership and your steady hand at the Department of Treasury, the United States economy is doing very well. I think the GDP growth in the last quarter, third quarter, was 4.4% annualized in 2025. Labor markets remain resilient. The unemployment rate is 1.2% below historical average. Inflation is down from the highs of the 40-year high Biden administration, decreasing some 70% from the peak in the Biden administration. American markets are strong. We saw the largest tax cut in history signed into law, allowing us to avoid a $4.2 trillion tax increase. We've got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. 88% of seniors will not pay federal income tax. The average refund is supposed to be $1,000 higher this year. And the average Nebraska family will avoid a $2,400 tax increase. Yet, despite all this progress, we're seeing consumer confidence is not really rebounding the way that the economy seems to be. In your opinion, what more can we in the Senate be doing with regard to consumer confidence and making, obviously we had 40-year high inflation under the Biden administration, but what more can we be doing in the Senate to be able to help out with confidence of consumers?
Other than telling consumers to turn off MSNBC, a large part of it is a survey problem where Democrats vote very low, Republicans are more realistic, and then we end up what we're seeing.
Senator.
Dies ist eine Website, die dir hilft, dein englisches Lesen und Hören zu verbessern. Sie zerlegt Sätze per KI in leicht verständliche Wortgruppen. Mit dem Player kannst du Tempo, Pause und Rücksprung frei steuern, um jede Zeile zu verstehen. Die Seite bietet Übersetzungen in 20 Sprachen für barrierefreies Lernen. Gib einfach englist.com in deinen Browser ein und probiere es aus.